A very good afternoon to all our viewers and welcome to a new episode of Inside Egypt, where we're going to bring you the latest political, economic and cultural events taking place here in Egypt in the form of reports that have been prepared by our reporters and correspondents here at Nile TV International. My name is Angie Meher. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi welcomed expanding Egyptian-EU development partnership in various domains. At a joint press conference with the European Council President Donald Tusk, who visited Egypt for the first time, el-Sisi urged Europe to partner with Egypt in national projects and pump more investments into the Arab state. We have the details in this report.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was invited to a summit that will be held in November in Valletta, Malta, to discuss the issue of migration in Africa and other key countries. The summit was announced on the 23rd of April to discuss partnership between Europe and Africa in that regard. The President received the invitation during his meeting with the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, to discuss cooperation between the Egyptian government and the Council. The meeting was followed by a press conference. The Syrian refugee crisis topped the agenda of the meeting, among other issues. El-Sisi and Tusk exchanged suggestions regarding the Syrian refugee crisis that has been affecting the European Union's state recently. El-Sisi emphasized Egypt's willingness to work with the EU to resolve the issue. On the other hand, Tusk outlined EU plans and actions to address this challenge. El-Sisi and Tusk discussed the latest updates in the Middle East and the ongoing conflicts in the Syrian and Libyan crises, as well as the issue of terrorism, which affects both Egypt and the EU. President El-Sisi stated that Egypt is looking forward to expanding the developmental partnership between Egypt and the EU in various fields. He also encouraged European institutions to take part in joint national projects Egypt is launching. Further, he encouraged European investors to make use of the investment opportunities in Egypt. With regards to internal policies, El-Sisi referred to the upcoming parliamentary elections in Egypt as a step towards democracy. Tusk, from his side, praised the preparations for parliamentary elections, highlighting the importance of protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms through the Egyptian constitution. The visit was Tusk's first to Egypt since it was announced president of the European Council in December 2014.
The armed forces continued their military operation, Retribution for the Martyrs, for the second week to combat terrorism in the cities of El Arish, Sheikh Zwayd and Rafah in North Sinai. A military statement said that 9 terrorists were killed and 17 suspected arrested in the 16th day of the operation. Statement noted that 25 hideouts, 7 cars and 14 motorcycles were destroyed during the operation. Within the framework of the regional project for economic empowerment of Syrian women in host countries, Ambassador Mirvat al-Talawi, the head of the National Council for Women, paid a visit to the Vocational Training Center built to conduct vocational training for Syrian females. Talawi was accompanied by the regional director of UN Women and the Japanese ambassador to Egypt. Nile TV's Linda Abdul Latif has the details in this report.
Within the framework of the regional project for economic empowerment of Syrian women in host countries that is implemented in Egypt in cooperation between the National Council for Women and UN Women, Ambassador Mirvat al-Talawi, the head of the National Council for Women, paid a visit to the Vocational Training Center that is built to conduct vocational training for the Syrian females and vulnerable women in host community in tailoring, nursing and cooking.
All the activities that a woman can do at home and gain income for herself and her family, because 80% of the refugees are women and children, and in many cases the women are the head of the household.
We came here to help ourselves and get an income. We have learned different tailoring techniques. They've been very useful courses, and I even designed some pieces for my house. The regional project, which is being implemented in 5 Arab countries, including Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, and Syria, is fully funded by the government of Japan with a total budget of $3 million. The project aims at increasing access to economic recovery opportunities for Syrian women and reducing violence against women and gender-based violence.
We have been extending assistance financially and to these projects, and I hope the project will be successful.
It is providing the women with economic opportunities and vocational training to empower them to produce products that would be marketable in the Egyptian market, and that will transform into a small income to these families.
With the increasing number of Syrian refugees in different Arab countries, UN Women, along with the concerned institutions like the National Council for Women in Egypt, are working hard in order to provide Syrian women with all what it takes to empower them economically. And having such a center aims at achieving this target and making them active participants in the society. Linda Abdulatif, Nile TV International.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi called for finding creative administrative ideas to increase revenues without affecting low-income brackets. The President made the call during his meeting with the newly appointed Prime Minister Sharif Ismail and a number of ministers, including the Ministers of Planning, Supply, Finance, International Cooperation, Petroleum and Trade and Industry. We have the details.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the economic ministerial team in the newly appointed cabinet to discuss making services more affordable in accordance with the needs of citizens. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Ala Yusuf said in a statement at the meeting with the 7 ministers, which included Prime Minister Sharif Ismail as well as newly appointed and old ministers, covered the general social long-term and short-term economic development goals. Sisi met with the ministers of Planning, Supply, Industry and Foreign Trade, Petroleum, Finance, Investment and International Cooperation. He stressed the need to render fuel, medicines and commodity supplies economically accessible, especially prior to Eid al-Adha holiday. Economic development was particularly discussed, and El-Sisi highlighted the need to encourage and attract direct investments while taking into account the opportunities to develop major projects such as the Suez Canal Development Project and the 1.5 million acres project. The project, intended to be up and running in an adequate time range, is expected to contribute to the economy and the country's GDP. The statement also noted that creative ideas would be essential in order to increase state revenue. Improvement in state revenue would provide for low-income citizens. An essential point brought up in the statement was the need to prioritize imports and alleviate the state from the burden of foreign currencies. The President mentioned that unnecessary products can always be substituted by local alternatives for competitive prices. The meeting also stressed on strengthening dialogue with Egyptians living abroad in order to secure closer ties to the homeland. The ministerial team affirmed their intention to meet the needs of citizens, improve the overall standard of living, and develop various sectors of the Egyptian economy, as well as to establish more concrete communication with Egyptians living abroad.
The second day of the SPE conference, known as the Society of Petroleum Engineers North Africa Technical Conference and Exhibition, was held to discuss the oil and gas industry in the North African region. The sessions of the conference focused on North Africa's unexploited potential and promising future. Nile TV's Linda Abdulatif has more in this report.
Known as the Society of Petroleum Engineers North Africa Technical Conference and Exhibition was held to discuss the oil and gas industry in North Africa. On its second day, the conference tackled the topic of enhanced oil recovery, as well as North Africa's unexploited potential and promising future through extension and revival.
The unexploited potential holds a lot of treasures that has not been utilized to now, and we're trying to focus and turn the lights on them so that it will bring up more recognition and more value for the country.
We are going to discuss something about the nanotechnology, which can be used for enhancing oil recovery, This by making some slurries. These slurries using the nanotechnology can make sweep all the oil accumulated downward and increasing the recovery factor of the oils.
The conference was attended by a number of representatives of international oil and gas companies who believe in the great potential of Egypt's oil and gas industry.
We're focusing on Egypt so that we can be part of that development, obviously, and of course that's for two reasons. One being obviously the oil price is quite low at the moment, but to drill in North Africa is still reasonably cost effective.
And the latest discovery of the supergiant gas fields in Egypt is expected to even increase foreign investment in the country in the field of oil and gas.
I think this is excellent news for Egypt and for all of the people in Egypt. It's a success story for the industry and the population as a whole. A good sign of hope for moving forward.
These companies that are looking at Egypt already, now they know the resources there, and it's reasonable to expect there's additional resources. I fully expect additional investors to come into the region. The second day of the SPE North Africa Technical Conference and Exhibition focuses on the unexploited potential of the oil and gas industry in Egypt and North Africa, and the feedbacks of the representatives of international oil and gas companies prove that Egypt is a major investment hub when it comes to the field of oil and gas. Linda Abdulatif, Nile TV International.
Statement after taking the oath, the newly appointed Prime Minister Sharif Ismail said that the government is committed to completing the parliamentary elections with integrity and transparency. He said the government has short-term and medium-term visions that depend on increasing the rates of development and security for citizens. We have the details.
A new cabinet was sworn in on Saturday with 16 new ministers introduced in a government that is expected to serve until at least a new parliament convenes. After taking the oath, the newly appointed Prime Minister Sharif Ismail said that the government is committed to completing the parliamentary elections with integrity and transparency, explaining that the government has short-term and medium-term visions that depend on increasing the rate of development and security for citizens. He said that the government requires real, comprehensive and fast development, noting that the government will confront corruption firmly as there is no place for it in Egypt. Regarding the selection criteria for the new ministers, Ismail said that it ensured work efficiency, achievement, the high performance, adding that the current phase requires quick solutions. While the ministers of Defense, Interior, Foreign Affairs, Justice and Investment kept their positions, the change in the cabinet saw new ministers of Education, Industry and Trade, Tourism, Local Development, International Cooperation, Military Production, Health and Population, Petroleum, Higher Education, Transportation, Communications, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Culture, Immigration and Egyptian Abroad, Agriculture and Manpower. According to the Constitution, upon assembly of the Parliament, the President has to assign a Prime Minister to form a cabinet and present his program, and in case that the Parliament turns down the cabinet, the majority coalition will have to nominate a Prime Minister to form a new cabinet that must gain the trust of the Parliament. If the Parliament does not approve the cabinet, it is considered dissolved. The elections are set to kick off in mid-October and to last until December, with the first parliamentary session expected to assemble in January. According to the newly appointed Prime Minister, the current government will provide its best effort as they have a clear mandate from the President to complete all national projects. Ismail said that the Egyptian economy is suffering, noting that they will fight to implement the objectives of reducing the state budget of deficit and debt and achieving better growth rate if possible. He added that Egypt will not give up its share to the Nile waters as consultations on the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam are going on.
We now now bring you our tourism magazine, which brings us the latest news related to tourists as well as attractive destinations to visit in Egypt. Our reporter Abid Mutwalli has the details.
Excavations by an Egyptian mission at El Tel El Dafna archaeological site in Qantara have uncovered a 200-meter section of the long-lost 6th branch of the Nile. The Paleozoic branch was the major navigational byway into the delta from Sinai, which once divided the ancient Qantara city into east and west. Muhammad Abd al-Maqsood, head of the mission, said that the first ever complete industrial city was uncovered at Qantara. It includes a collection of kilns used to melt iron and bronze in weapon making for Egyptian army during the 26th dynasty. He said the Antiquities Minister has ordered more archaeologists and excavators to work at the site in order to reveal more of the Paleozoic branch and the industrial city. The course of the Paleozoic branch has been traced on a deltic plain east of the Suez Canal. The Antiquities Minister Mamdouh al-Damati announced that Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities invented a conservation material called carbon-13 in collaboration with the Egyptian Atomic Energy Authority to use it in the restoration of artifacts. Al-Damati explained that carbon-13 is the result of bilateral research between the Ministry of Antiquities and the Egyptian Atomic Energy Authority. The material took several years to invent. The research paper for the invention is one of the papers that was submitted by Egypt for the 59th round of the General Conference on Atomic Energy to be held in Austria between 16th and 20th September. Islam Azzad, the Antiquities Ministry representative in the conference, said it is the first time that Egypt has created a conservation material made as a result of nuclear power. Azzad said that Egypt took out a patent for improving carbon-13, adding that inventing such material came within the framework of the ministry to use nuclear power and atomic energy in several peaceful fields, especially for preserving cultural heritage. A collection of replicas have been conserved with the recently invented carbon and will be exhibited on the fringe of the conference.
And finally, Zamalek defeated arch rival Ahli 2-0 to be crowned as the Egypt Cup champions for the 2014-15 season on Monday at the Petrosport Stadium. Zamalek's Bessem Mursi doubled early in the 11th minutes and 33rd respectively of the first half. 21st minute witnessed a dangerous tackle for Al-Ahli as Ahmed Fathi made a perfect cross to Ramadan Subhi, but went in vain as Zamalek win is the third in a row and previously were crowned the Egyptian Premier League champions for the same season. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of Inside Egypt. But do keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. We'd like to receive your feedback and comments on www.facebook.com/InsideEgypt. My name is Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.